Hey everybody!
Hi everyone!
Look at where we are! Sandhill cranes. We'll be quiet for a minute.
We love sandhill cranes since way back when, before we were married. They're just so beautiful, graceful. Their mating dance is incredible. And the voice is like something from when they first kicked into action some 2 or 3 million years ago.
And some people say as much as 10, you
some
say.
people do argue that,
Yes.
yeah, so they are one of the oldest birds in the world. And here they are still thriving happily.
Yeah, and here we are getting to see them. This is their winter range, one of a few. Some, I think probably quite a few. Some are down in Mexico, some are in New Mexico, some are here. And this is in southeastern Arizona. And here there are thousands within where we're standing. And you can see some of them, but it goes way, way back.
Yeah, to 20 to 30,000 in most years from what we're told. So that's a lot of sandhill cranes.
Yeah, we're pretty thrilled.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen more than maybe a dozen or two together in my life in the sky. So to come here, wow.
Yeah. And we're bringing them to you for the new year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, we have been through what we've been through, and here we go forward into what we're going forward into, just like the sandhill cranes.
Yep, one day at a time.
That's right.
That's right.
This month we've been thinking, as we suggested to some of you during Deep Dive and maybe in the last update, we've been, in November we were talking about community and the interdependence within community. And then last month in December we were talking about relationship and how does the natural world teach us humans who seem to have some trouble with relationship how to do that, how to be true. Well, we've decided that we need even more information, and so we are thinking this month about the relationship we have in here. So the social ecologies. Yeah. Remember when we came up with that part?
I do. Social ecologies in here and between us, and that's what we want to talk about with you this time.
Yeah, these social ecologies, we kind of came up with that when actually it was work I think I was doing in Yellowstone around the way people were getting along with each other there in Yellowstone. When we just realized that we can care as much as we want to about the natural world and about the well-being of natural, what we think of as natural ecologies. But if we're not tending to the social ecologies, then we're not very effective. And you can see that in a lot of activist groups, and you can see that in nonprofit groups, and you can see that in federal groups that are designed or funded to take care of the natural world. We gotta be clear in here and in here and how we work here. And humans are not super good at that. So this time we're looking at inside us, the internal ecologies.
And here we are, on the edge of, not on the edge, we're well into the, some might say, ravages of climate change. And while we've got all kinds of clever technology that's really up to the task to help us heal this issue, without the social ecologies, then we'll never be able to really do what we could have done otherwise. And so this is super important. It's not something as an environmentalist, I remember when I was young spending any time thinking about it all or hearing anybody really talk about it all. So it's a whole new world, and it's a way to kind of bring us back into the fold of life in some ways, not just with each other, but then the world at large.
So, right, when you look at these sandhill cranes, and there they are again, and they go way back that way, sandhill cranes, and as far as you can see, they are good teachers. Something's been working for 2 to 3 to 10 million years. For them they're standing on the shoulders of giants, long ancestry. What are they doing here now? Well, one of the things it seems to us that's going on is a good model of sovereignty. And how does sovereignty, we've kind of, the word sovereignty has been co-opted by the divine right of regals, of monarchs. And that's, that's a very limited notion of sovereignty. Sovereignty is simply self-containment and self-governance. And so the birds, we've been watching them this afternoon and watching how each of them is doing exactly what each of them does. You know who else is doing that? The trees and the grasses. But they're not about to sever their ties with any of the beings and with which they're in contact. And the birds are not going to misuse the water, and they're not going to misuse the air, and they're not going to misuse the grasses. Why would they do that?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth since we decided to talk about this topic with the notion of, what do we do to maintain our ecology individually? I mean, there's all kinds of wonderful examples. If you don't have enough oxygen coming into your body, then your cells are going to alter in chemical ways that protect the protein strands in the cells and make sure no damage comes to them. There are fish that are able to go from super salty water to fresh water or just slightly brackish water, and their internal chemistry changes to adapt to whatever their environment is. One of the cool things that they've seen now happening over the last 40 years, it looks like some of the northward migrating birds, since we're here, I'll mention this, they're having to migrate faster because of climate changes and get to their summer range faster. And so in just 40 years, they've noticed some species have started to diminish their body size and expand their wingspan. And so they've got less weight to carry, and they got bigger wings to make that trip faster, fewer stops along the way. And of course, that's an individual thing. Every individual is doing that. But on the other hand, by every individual being able to do that, they continue to keep the community flowing and going so that the community thrives as a set of relationships. So there's an internal ecology that's maintained for the sake of the survival of the individual, but that is always in service of some kind of as we've said before, exchange of relationships.
Yes, well, the exchange of relationships sustains the individual, and the individual sustains the fact of relationship and community.
Yes.
So they're entirely interdependent. Our fear is that, or the way that we've been socialized, I'd suggest, check me on this, the way that we've been socialized, we've learned to be suspicious of ourselves, and to lack self-confidence, and to lack a sense that we do not just have agency and capacity for self-governance, that it's not, that we've been duped to believe that it's not a sacred right. It is a sacred right. It is a birthright. You all consider this. And the birds and the trees, they don't even question it. It doesn't even occur to them. They are simply being in community, in sovereignty, in more direct relationship by nature. And they're not fussing it to death the way we can sometimes, quite often do. And they're also, nobody needs to make land claims. Nobody needs to fight wars. Nobody needs to subdue somebody else because they go to a different church or they have a different way of speaking.
We're not suggesting there isn't competition among limited resources for the existing life forms that live there. But there's not this, I'm going to take all of this for me and leave none for you. And I keep thinking of something we've talked about before, and that's intuition and the ability to really know maybe what is best for you in a given moment, I think is much, much stronger. It's hardwired into us and has been for hundreds of thousands of years than we are able to kind of give leash to. And one of the things that makes it so hard is, we're tuned into social media that if you share something that really is heartfelt and about you and what you're thinking and what you're on about and what you're hoping for, and it gets blowback, that's enough for a lot of people to think, okay, I'm not going to show that side of myself, I'm not going to take that path because I've just been shut down. And there's so many places of chatter going on that want to, limit, especially if you've got an intuition to do something that's maybe outside what people have seen before. It takes courage. It really takes courage to be able to quiet down and get in touch with that intuition and grow it.
Well, and it seems to me that the quieting down is part of the radical. We're really talking radical. We can, in these days, we could call it radical resistance, but it's just radical truth, radical true nature, radically true nature, that we're talking about recovering in the internal ecology. And so this sovereignty thing is, I have an idea, I have a desire, I have a sense of how a problem can be solved. I'm going to mention that. And when the person that I mention it to says something that is, well, let's slow this down, or whatever they say, I'm not going to pop and go into being a victim. I'm not going to pop and go into withdrawal or into aggression, because sovereignty doesn't do that. The sovereign being goes, okay, let's listen to that. That reminds me of that story of the Iroquois leadership. Some of you may have heard this, but I learned this back quite a few decades ago, that the Iroquois, I'll try to be brief about it, a young man from a Catholic order, dressed in brown with a golden belt, rope belt around his waist, requested from the Iroquois leadership of the 7 bands to tell the story of Christianity to them. And so the chiefs invited him in to hear his story. And he told the story of Christianity. And when he was done, the chief of the Red Jacket of the Seneca, he was in charge, because he had the most English, of communicating all that had been said to the other leadership. And he said to this young man that he would be back to him soon with what the leadership said. Well, they discussed it, and they instructed Red Jacket. They all agreed, and Red Jacket brought back their consensus. And the consensus that Red Jacket gave to the young man was, great story, could be true. And now we'd like to tell you our story. At which point this young man went ballistic and called them all heathen and stormed out. And so we know the kind of stuff that followed from that. The point of that story is that those chiefs were coming from sovereign positions. And the sovereign position is, I know who I am. And I'm very willing to learn more. I'm very willing to be persuaded. And I'm going to share and speak from that. And I'm going to be in helpful communication rather than having any need to jump into defensiveness or, the withdrawal and any of that. So those leaders, their teachers, these birds are doing the same thing. You can hear them. They're sharing their stories. We don't know what they are. Nobody's bickering.
Well, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's all well and good. They're not particularly, those birds aren't tempted by, the same things I am, and distracted by the same potential pulls that seem to go so badly once I decide to follow that road. One of the things you've been saying for quite a long time, and this is going to sound insanely simple, but it's so powerful, to really just quiet down and say, am I acting from love or am I acting from fear? And if your intuition isn't quite up there yet where you can trust it fully, then weave that particular question into your efforts to get in touch with your intuition. Am I doing this? Am I making the decision out of love, or am I making it out of fear? And to the extent you can lean toward love, things are going to be, we think, better for you, better for everyone.
Yeah. And this is a kind of love, we were just talking about this. It's a quality of love that is, it's not Hallmark card, but it contains Hallmark card. It's not romantic love, it contains romantic love. It's not like love of a parent or love of a child or of family love, but it contains that. It's a really big love. It's the love that we feel like we're seeing right now between these beings, and between the beings and the water, and between the trees and the soil and the water. It's what the natural world is showing us all the time is the essential nature of who we are in here and with each other.
Yeah, it is a kind of love. It's a love or a bonding, if you've got another word you prefer, but it is the love that gives rise to life itself on planet Earth. That's what we're talking about. That's what these birds are partaking in, the trees, the grasses,
and we
and us.
Yeah.
And so there is a kind of big love that has allowed this magnificent planet to be so successful and so many species to be beautiful and melodic and powerful and inspiring and efficient and all of the other things that have come through these relationships that hold us together.
Yeah, there is an invitation into us when we're considering our internal ecologies to stop, like we say in full ecology, to stop. Just everything, even if it's for a split second, just to stop. And then to take a moment and notice how much is working. We really have a lot of ground to stand on, to be in our lives, to ask the fundamental questions: who am I, and what do I want? What do I want? Not what am I here for, that will follow later, that's action. And action is, of course, important, but those first questions, to slow down and be with those questions, to slow down and say, do I wish to live from fear or do I wish to live from love? And it's not just a head game. This is a deep, deep question. And asking that question of yourself in the company of these teachers is a powerful, powerful thing. So we invite you to that for this month of January, where we're starting out on a new, what promises to be quite an astounding year.
I've taken, thanks to you, to walking through nature and tuning into it, as I think you described in the Full Ecology book, as a source of loving disinterest.
Yeah.
And that's a really intriguing phrase to hold, loving disinterest. The tree may not be interested in what decision I make, but there is, as part of the relationship on this planet we share together, a kind of bonding. We're exchanging gases, phytoncides and oxygen from the trees, carbon dioxide from us to the trees. And so there are these exchanges going on all the time, but there is a kind of loving disinterest that nature gives us, and I find it very reassuring and calming, actually.
Yeah, you can feel it. You can feel, and you call it what you will, but you can feel that presence and that, I don't know, we only have, human words, but essential kindness of the natural world. You may not feel it in a hurricane.
Yeah.
But right now, right here where we are, we're feeling it in abundance. That essential presence and kindness of the natural world that really is going to keep giving us that, whether we notice or not. And it's disinterested in whether we notice or not. It's going to keep doing that because that's what it's doing with all beings and with itself. So these are all the things that we've been thinking about.
Yes, it's been a busy few weeks thinking.
Yeah. And we're going to continue considering these things. It seems like the time is really right, that it's very much not just time for some set of logical reasons, but it's just time for us to come from love and care that naturally emerges for each other and for all beings. Because this corporate stuff, telling us who we are and what to do, it's time to just step away from that and say, we're gonna consider what's best for us. We're gonna act and think and be from our sovereignty in kind interaction with each other and the natural world. You see what you think. We're going to have a deep dive on this.
We are on January 14th, as a matter of fact, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, if you can join us. We've been having such wonderful conversations the last a couple times we've had deep dives. So please join in and let us know what's on your mind, and we'd love to know. And also, in the meantime, whatever your holiday traditions, whatever your holidays are, or none at all, have a good solstice, a good relaunching of light into the northern hemisphere. This is a time to pause, and if nothing else, I think be extremely grateful.
Yeah. If you need more information about full ecology, or if you want to sign up for our newsletter so that you can be reminded of the deep dive, go to www.fullecology.com. You can also contact us
At connect@fullecology.com.
We really love hearing from you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us for this, and hopefully we'll see you again before long.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Until soon.
Bye.
Bye for now.